Picture a ceramic bowl, not in a museum, on a kitchen shelf. It has a crack running through it, a thin line where it broke years ago and someone glued it back together. Most people would hide that bowl or throw it away. But in Japan, they might fill that crack with gold. And suddenly, the break becomes the most beautiful part. You have probably felt like that bowl at some point. Something in you cracked, and you spent years trying to hide it, trying to look whole. Tonight, we are going to sit with an idea that might feel strange at first. What if the crack is not the problem? What if imperfection is not something to fix, but something to understand? There is a Japanese philosophy that has spent centuries answering this question. It does not have a single name. It is woven through tea ceremonies and garden stones, through poetry and silence, through the way light falls on old wood. But if we had to give it words, we might call it this: the art of finding beauty in what is broken, incomplete, and impermanent. Tonight, we are going to walk through that philosophy, not to become Japanese, not to adopt a new belief system, just to see if something in this ancient way of seeing might help you rest. We will move slowly. 3 hours, 30 ideas, no rush. Some of what we explore will feel like poetry. Some will feel like common sense you forgot you knew. And somewhere along the way, if your mind gets quiet enough, you might fall asleep. That is perfectly fine. The ideas will still be here in the morning. But before we begin, one question to hold gently. There is a reason broken things can be more beautiful than new ones. We will return to that reason, but not yet. For now, just notice. When you think of something imperfect in your life, a scar, a regret, a rough edge you have been trying to smooth, does it feel like a flaw? Or does it feel like proof that you have lived? Let that question sit. We have time. Chapter 2. Shinto Roots of Aesthetics. Before there was philosophy in Japan, there was watching. The earliest spiritual practice on the islands was not about gods in the sky. It was about the gods in the river, in the mountain, in the old tree that had seen 100 winters. This practice is called Shinto, and it teaches something simple. The sacred is not separate from the world. It is inside the world. A rock is not just a rock. It holds kami, spirit, presence, aliveness. The moss growing on that rock is not decoration. It is time made visible. When you learn to see this way, aesthetics stop being about prettiness. They become about presence. Let your shoulders drop for a moment. Notice the texture of whatever is beneath you, the temperature of the air. This is the beginning of the Japanese way of seeing, not thinking about beauty, feeling it. Shinto did not build grand temples at first. It built small shrines, often just a rope around a tree, a clearing in the forest, a pile of stones. The message was clear. Divinity does not need gold and marble. It needs attention. And this attention, this quiet noticing, became the foundation for everything that followed. The tea ceremony, the rock garden, the haiku, all of it began here. With the idea that the world, exactly as it is enough. You do not need to improve the mountain. You need to see it. Now, let us take one step deeper. Chapter 3, Impermanence in Early Thought. There is a word in Japanese that does not translate cleanly. Mujo. It means nothing lasts. Not as a sad truth, as a simple one. The cherry blossoms bloom for 2 weeks, then fall. The autumn leaves turn red, then brown, then dust. The tea gets cold. The candle burns down. The day ends. This is not tragedy. This is the way things are. And early Japanese thinkers noticed something strange. The things that lasted forever, stone statues, metal gates, did not move people. The things that disappeared quickly, the blossom, the snowflake, the firefly, those were the things that made people stop and stare. Why? Because impermanence creates presence. When you know the flower will be gone by next week, you look at it today. When you know this moment will not come again, you notice it. And so Mujo became not a philosophy of despair, but a philosophy of attention. Think of a time when you were most present, most alive. It was probably not during a routine Tuesday. It was probably during something that could not last. A sunset, a goodbye, a moment you knew was ending. The Japanese noticed this centuries ago, and they built an entire aesthetic around it. Not fighting impermanence, inviting it in. Because the things that fade are often the things we remember most clearly. Hold that gently. The next idea will meet it. Chapter 4, Zen and Direct Experience. Zen Buddhism arrived in Japan from China around the 12th century. But it did not arrive as a set of beliefs. It arrived as a set of practices. And one of those practices was this: stop thinking about the truth. Experience it. A Zen teacher does not lecture. A Zen teacher points at a flower, at your breath, at the sound of rain on the roof. And when the student says, "I understand," the teacher might hit them with a stick. Not out of cruelty, out of kindness, because understanding is still in the head. The goal is to get out of the head. One famous Zen story goes like this. A student asks the master, "What is the meaning of life?" The master points to a tree and says, "The cypress tree in the garden." The student waits for more. There is no more. That is the answer. Not a metaphor, not a riddle. Just look at the tree. This confused many people. It still does. But here is what Zen is saying. The meaning is not hidden in some secret teaching. It is right in front of you. The problem is that your mind is so busy trying to figure out the meaning that you never actually see the tree. Let your attention move to your breath for just a moment. Not to control it, just to notice it. There. That is Zen. No philosophy, just this. And from this simple practice, an entire way of seeing emerged. A way that would shape everything from architecture to poetry to the way people pour tea. But before we get there, we need to sit with one more idea. One that might feel uncomfortable at first. Chapter 5, Emptiness and Mu. Zen teachers love the word mu. It means nothing, emptiness, void, but not the scary kind of emptiness, the spacious kind. Imagine a room full of furniture, every corner packed, no space to move. Now imagine the same room empty. Which one feels more alive? Mu is that emptiness, the space where something can happen. Your mind right now is probably full. Thoughts stacked on thoughts, worries about yesterday, plans for tomorrow. And Zen says, what if you cleared the room? Not by force, not by trying to push the thoughts away, just by noticing that most of what you are carrying is not actually real. It is memory, projection, story. And underneath the story, there is mu, there is space. One Zen koan asks, what was your original face before your parents were born? It is not asking for an answer. It is asking you to sit with the question until your mind gives up trying. And in that giving up, something shifts. You realize that the self you have been defending, worrying about, trying to perfect, that self is also a story. And beneath it, there is something simpler, something that does not need to be fixed, because it was never broken. This is not easy to hear when you are lying awake at 2 a.m. going over everything you did wrong today. But maybe tonight, just for a moment, you can let the room be empty. Not because you solved anything, because you stopped filling the silence with noise. Take one slow breath and let the emptiness be spacious, not scary. We are going somewhere with this. Chapter 6, The Aesthetics of Silence. Silence in Japanese culture is not awkward. It is not something to fill. It is the space where meaning lives. In a Western conversation, silence often means something went wrong. Someone should speak. In a Japanese conversation, silence can mean I am thinking, I am feeling, I am here with you. The most famous Zen gardens, like the rock garden at Ryoanji, are almost entirely empty. 15 rocks, raked gravel, nothing else. No flowers, no water, no statues. And people travel across the world to sit and stare at it. Why? Because the emptiness lets your mind rest. There is nothing to figure out, nothing to achieve, just stones and space. And in that space, something quiets. This same principle shows up in Japanese homes. Minimal furniture, clean lines, walls left blank. Not because they cannot afford decoration, because decoration is noise, and noise over time exhausts you. Think about your own space, your own life. How much of what surrounds you is actually necessary, and how much is just there? The Japanese aesthetic asks, what if you removed what does not serve? Not to be austere, to be clear, because clarity is not cold, clarity is calm. And calm is what your nervous system has been asking for all along. Let your jaw soften. The next chapter is where the philosophy becomes something you can touch. Chapter 7, Wabi. Rustic simplicity. Wabi is one half of the phrase you may have heard, Wabi-Sabi. It means rustic, humble, simple, but not simple like easy, simple like essential. A wabi object is handmade, slightly irregular, unpolished. A clay bowl with a thumbprint still visible in the glaze. A wooden table worn smooth by decades of hands. A cottage with a thatched roof and uneven floorboards. These things are not perfect. They are real, and real in the Wabi tradition is more beautiful than perfect. There is a story about a tea master in the 16th century. He was preparing for a ceremony. Everything had to be just right. His student spent hours arranging the garden path. Every leaf swept, every stone aligned. The master walked out, looked, and shook his head. He reached down, picked up a handful of leaves, and scattered them across the path. There, he said. Now it is beautiful. The student was confused. Wasn't the goal perfection? No. The goal was honesty. A path with no leaves looks like no one lives there. A path with a few scattered leaves looks like life, and Wabi is always choosing life over image. You have probably spent a lot of energy trying to look like you have it together. The right job, the right home, the right answers. But Wabi asks, what if you stop performing? What if you let the leaves fall where they fall? You are not a museum piece. You are a person, and people are uneven, handmade, slightly worn. That is not a flaw. That is proof you are still here. Notice the weight of your hands, the texture of your skin. These are not perfect. They are real, and real is enough. Now let us meet Wabi's companion. Chapter 8. Sabi. Patina of time. Sabi is the other half, and it means the beauty of age. Not old and broken, old and deepened. A copper roof turned green, a wooden post weathered grey, a face lined with 70 years of smiling, worrying, and surviving. Sabi says, time is not the enemy, time is the artist. In the West, we often fight aging. We sand things down, repaint, replace. In Japan, They let things age, and they watch what happens. The temple gate darkens, the garden stone grows moss, the tatami mat fades, and each change is recorded, honored, left alone. Because Sabi teaches that beauty does not peak at newness. Beauty deepens over time. Think of something you have owned for years. A jacket, a book, a piece of furniture. It probably does not look new anymore, but it looks like yours. The scuff on the leather, the dog-eared page, the worn armrest. Those marks are not damage. They are memory. And memory, in the Sabi tradition, is sacred. You are not the person you were at 20 or 30 or even last year. Your face has changed. Your body has changed. Your voice carries weight it did not used to, and somewhere along the way you learned to call that loss. But Sabi calls it accumulation. You have not lost your youth. You have gained your years. And those years have made you something new, cannot be seasoned, textured, deep. Let the next breath come a little slower. And with that understanding, we can move into the room where Wabi and Sabi became ritual. Chapter 9. The Tea Ceremony Spirit. The Japanese tea ceremony is not about drinking tea. It is about presence. Every movement is deliberate. The way you enter the room, the way you hold the bowl, the way you bow, nothing is rushed, nothing is wasted. And the ceremony itself is designed around 4 principles: harmony, respect, purity, tranquility. Harmony with the season, the space, the people in the room. Respect for the objects, the tradition, the moment. Purity in intention. You are here to be here, not to perform. Tranquility in the silence between gestures. The room where tea is served is small, often just large enough for a few people to kneel. The door is low, so low that everyone, samurai, merchant, monk, has to bow to enter. No one is more important than the tea. And once inside, the world outside disappears. There is no past, no future, just this room, this bowl, this sip. One tea master described it as one time, one meeting, meaning this exact moment with these exact people will never happen again. So do not waste it thinking about tomorrow. You probably do not practice tea ceremony, but you have moments like this. Moments when the world narrows to just this, just now. Maybe it is the first sip of morning coffee. Maybe it is the last light before the day ends. And in that moment, if you are paying attention, the noise stops. You are not trying to be anywhere else. You are here. That is the tea ceremony spirit. And it does not require tea. It just requires noticing that this moment is singular, and then letting it be enough. Feel your feet on the ground. The tea master who perfected this art is waiting in the next chapter. Chapter 10. Sen no Rikyu, and refinement. Sen no Rikyu lived in 16th century Japan. He was not born into wealth or power. He was a merchant's son. But he became the most influential tea master in Japanese history. Not because he made tea elaborate, because he made it simple. Before Rikyu, tea ceremonies were displays of wealth, gold utensils, imported ceramics, expensive scrolls. Rikyu stripped it all away. He used rough clay bowls, simple bamboo scoops, flowers picked that morning from the roadside. And he taught that the highest refinement is not luxury, it is restraint. One story tells of a powerful warlord who asked Rikyu to design a tea room. The warlord wanted gold leaf, expensive wood, a room that would impress visiting dignitaries. Rikyu built him a room with mud walls, a thatched roof, and a single window. The warlord was furious. "This is a peasant's hut." Rikyu bowed. "Yes, and it is perfect." The warlord did not understand at first, but over time, he realized something. In that simple room, his mind stopped performing. There was nothing to prove, nothing to show off, just presence. And presence, Rikyu taught, is the only luxury that lasts. Rikyu's life ended tragically. He was ordered to commit ritual suicide after a political dispute. But on his final day, he performed one last tea ceremony. Calm, deliberate, attentive. He did not plead. He did not rage. He poured tea, and then he left. His students asked how he could be so calm facing death, and his answer was simple. Every tea ceremony is a farewell. I have been practicing this my entire life. You may never face that kind of ending, but you face smaller endings every day. The end of a conversation, the end of a project, the end of a good day. And Rikyu's question is this: can you meet those endings with the same presence you bring to beginnings? Can you bow, pour the tea, and let the moment close? Let your shoulders drop. The rooms Rikyu designed are still standing, and they are about to teach us something. Chapter 11: Imperfect Architecture and Space. A traditional Japanese room is not built to last forever. The walls are paper, the floor is woven grass, the beams are wood that will eventually rot. And this is intentional, because impermanence is not fought, it is designed into the structure. The room changes with the seasons. In summer, the paper screens slide open to let the breeze through. In winter, they close to hold warmth. The tatami mats fade, the wood darkens, the roof needs rethatching every few decades. And instead of seeing this as failure, the Japanese see it as participation. The house is alive, and like all living things, it ages. Western architecture often tries to deny time, steel, concrete, permanence. How? Japanese architecture makes friends with time, and this changes how you live in the space. You do not own the room, you inhabit it for a while, and then you leave. There is another principle at work here, Ma. Ma is the space between things. In a room, it is the empty corner, the gap between objects, the pause between sounds. And Ma is not wasted space, it is breathing room. A Western room is often filled. Every wall has a picture, every surface has something on it. A Japanese room trusts the emptiness, and in that emptiness, your mind finds room to settle. Think about the space you are in right now. Is it full? Cluttered? Does it feel like it is holding you? Or asking something of you? What would it feel like to clear one surface? To leave one wall blank? Not because you are trying to be minimalist, because your nervous system needs space. And space is not absence, it is possibility. Notice the air moving in and out of your body. That is Ma, the pause between breaths. And it is the most important part. Now we step outside. Chapter 12, Gardens as Living Philosophy. A Japanese garden is not wilderness tamed. It is wildness invited in, then gently shaped. The goal is not control, it is conversation. You place a rock. The moss decides where to grow. The rain carves a path through the gravel. You do not fight this. You watch and you adjust. This is called borrowing the landscape. The garden does not try to block out the mountain in the distance. It frames it, includes it. The sound of the river beyond the wall becomes part of the design, and the garden becomes a place where human intention and natural process meet. No two visits to the garden are the same. In spring, the cherry tree blooms. In autumn, the maple turns red. In winter, the snow softens every edge. The garden is never finished. It is always becoming. And this teaches something deeper than aesthetics. It teaches that your life is also a garden. You can shape it, but you cannot control it. You can plant seeds, but you cannot force them to bloom on your schedule. You can clear the weeds, but they will return. And that is not failure. That is life. One of the most famous gardens in Japan, the Ryoanji Rock Garden, is just 15 rocks in a sea of gravel. That is all. No plants, no water, no color, and it has been sitting there for 500 years. People come from all over the world to stare at it, and they do not know why it moves them. But here is what it teaches. Simplicity is not emptiness. Simplicity is clarity. When there is less to look at, you see more. And when you stop trying to fill every gap, you notice what is already there. Let the stillness hold you for a moment. The next idea is one of the most beautiful in all of Japanese thought. Chapter 13, Mono, No Aware Sensibility. There is a feeling you get in late October. The light is softer. The air smells like leaves. The days are shorter, and something in you aches. Not sad, exactly, but tender. The Japanese have a word for this. Mono no aware. It means the pathos of things, the gentle sadness of impermanence. It is the feeling you get watching cherry blossoms fall, or holding a photograph of someone who is gone, or realizing your children are no longer children. It is not despair. It is not bitterness. It is the ache of knowing that beautiful things do not last. And Mono no Aware says, do not turn away from that ache. Feel it. Let it move through you, because that ache is proof that you loved something. Western culture often tries to eliminate sadness, fix it, medicate it, think your way out of it. Japanese culture makes room for it. There is even a season for it, autumn, the season of letting go. And in autumn, people gather to watch the leaves change color, knowing the leaves will fall, knowing winter is coming. And they do not call it depressing. They call it beautiful, because the falling is part of the beauty. You have probably experienced this, a goodbye that felt right, even though it hurt. A chapter closing that needed to close. A loss that softened into gratitude. That is Mono no Aware. It is the wisdom of knowing that everything ends and loving it anyway. Not in spite of its ending, because of it. Think of something you miss, not to dwell on it, just to notice the feeling, that tenderness in your chest, that bittersweet pull. That is not weakness. That is your heart remembering what mattered. And Mono no Aware says, let it matter, let it ache. Because the things that ache are the things that shaped you. Take one slow breath. The next idea will deepen this. Chapter 14, Yugen and Subtle Depth. Yugen is harder to translate. It means mystery, depth, the feeling of something just beyond understanding. It is the feeling you get looking into a forest at dusk. You cannot see all the way through, but you sense something there. Or the feeling of standing at the edge of the ocean, knowing there are depths you will never reach. Yugen is not about answers. It is about questions that do not need answering. In Japanese poetry, Yugen shows up as suggestion, not statement. The poet does not say, I am lonely. The poet says, the autumn wind. And somehow you feel the loneliness more deeply than if it had been named. In no theatre, Yugen is the slow mask, the half gesture, the silence between words. The actor does not explain the emotion. The actor lets you feel it, and what you feel is often more complex than any explanation could be. This is the opposite of clarity, and it is just as important, because not everything in life can be made clear. Some things are felt, not understood. Some truths live in the space between words. You have experienced this. The conversation where the most important thing was never said out loud. The look that carried more meaning than an entire speech. The moment when you just knew, even though you could not explain how. That is Yugen. And Yugen teaches that mystery is not the enemy of wisdom. Sometimes mystery is the point. You do not need to understand everything tonight. You do not need to solve the question that has been circling in your mind for months. You can let it remain mysterious and still be at peace. Because peace is not certainty. Peace is trust. Trust that the forest has depths, and you do not need to map every inch. Let the next breath be slightly slower. And now, we arrive at the image that started this entire journey. Chapter 15, Kintsugi and Broken Beauty. Kintsugi is the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. When a bowl cracks, instead of hiding the crack or throwing the bowl away, a Kintsugi artist traces the break with lacquer mixed with powdered gold. The crack becomes a gold vein running through the ceramic, and the bowl is not restored to its original state. It becomes something new, something more beautiful than it was before it broke. This is not a metaphor. This is an actual practice, and it teaches something radical. Brokenness is not the end of value. It is the beginning of a different kind of beauty. The flaw becomes the feature. The scar becomes the story, and the gold does not cover the crack. It highlights it. It says, "This happened," and it is part of what makes this object singular. Now think about your own life, the thing that broke you, the mistake you made, the loss you carry, the part of yourself you have been trying to hide. What if you stopped hiding it? What if you traced it with gold, not to glorify the pain, but to honor the survival? Because the fact that you are still here after that break is the gold. Kintsugi does not say you are broken. It says you were broken and you mended, and the mending is beautiful. This is the payoff to the question we planted at the beginning. There is a reason broken things can be more beautiful than new ones. Because broken things have been tested, survived, transformed, and transformation always leaves a mark. The mark is not shame. The mark is proof. You are not a perfect bowl sitting untouched on a shelf. You are a Kintsugi bowl, used, cracked, repaired, still holding tea, and the gold veins running through you are not flaws. They are the most honest part of who you are. Let your hands rest where they are and feel the weight of them, imperfect, alive. That is enough. The discipline behind this beauty is what we explore next. Chapter 16, The Discipline of Minimalism. Minimalism in Japan is not about deprivation. It is about intention. Every object in a traditional Japanese home is there for a reason, not because it looks good, because it serves. And when something no longer serves, it is released. Not with guilt, with gratitude. This practice requires discipline, because the default is accumulation. You buy things. You keep things. You forget why you have them. And over time, the objects stop serving you. You start serving them, cleaning them, storing them, moving them, worrying about them. Japanese minimalism asks, what if you only kept what you actually use and love? Everything else is just noise. And noise, over time, exhausts you. One Japanese organizing principle is this: if you have not used it in a year, you do not need it. Another is, every object should have a home. If it does not have a home, it does not belong. These are not rules, they are invitations. Invitations to clear space, to breathe, to let your home be a place that holds you instead of a place that demands things from you. But this goes deeper than objects. What about the mental clutter, the grudges you are still carrying, the arguments you are still rehearsing, the plans you keep making but never start? What if you applied the same principle? If it does not serve you, release it, not because you are weak, because you are wise enough to know that carrying everything is not strength. It is just weight, and at some point the weight becomes the problem. Notice the weight of your body where it rests. You are not holding yourself up right now. Something is holding you. The bed, the chair, the ground, you can let it. And the same is true for the rest of it. You do not have to hold everything. You can set some of it down. The next chapter will meet this idea from a different angle. Chapter 17, Samurai Ethics and Transience. The samurai were warriors, but they were also poets. They carried swords, and they wrote haiku. They trained for battle, and they practiced tea ceremony. And the reason for this is simple. They lived with death. Every day they faced the possibility that today might be their last. And that awareness changed how they lived. They did not waste time on pettiness. They did not hoard grudges. They knew that life was short, and they lived accordingly. There is a samurai text called Hagakure. It says, "The way of the samurai is found in death, not because they worship death, because they accepted it. And in accepting it, they became free. Free to act with clarity. Free to love without hesitation. Free to let go when the time came." This is not morbid, it is practical. When you know you will die, you stop pretending you have forever. You stop postponing the conversation, the apology, the trip, the rest. You do it now, or you let it go. Because someday is not a day of the week. The samurai also practice something called mushin. It means no mind. Not mindlessness, but freedom from overthinking. In battle, if you think too much, you die. You have to move before the thought completes. You have to trust your training, your body, your instinct, and the same is true in life. If you overthink every decision, you never decide. If you analyze every feeling, you never feel it. Mushin is the practice of acting from clarity, not calculation. And clarity comes from one place: acceptance. Acceptance that you cannot control everything. Acceptance that you will make mistakes. Acceptance that you will die someday, and so will everyone you love. And when you accept that, something shifts. You stop trying to make life risk-free. You start living it. Let your jaw soften. The samurai poets are about to teach us something. Chapter 18, Bushido and Inner Stillness. Bushido is the code of the samurai. It includes 7 principles: righteousness, courage, compassion, respect, honor, loyalty, and self-control. But the principle that matters most for our purposes is the last one: self-control. Not in the harsh sense, in the still sense, the ability to remain calm when everything around you is chaos. The samurai called this Fudoshin, immovable mind, not rigid, not cold, immovable like a mountain. The storm passes, the mountain remains. And Fudoshin is the practice of becoming that mountain, not by suppressing your emotions, by not being controlled by them. You feel anger, but you do not act from anger. You feel fear, but you do not let fear decide. You feel grief, and you let it move through you without collapsing. This is not easy. It is a practice, a discipline, and it requires one thing above all: stillness. The samurai spent hours in meditation, not to become holy, to become clear, because a cluttered mind makes poor decisions, and poor decisions in battle are fatal. You may not be in battle, but you are in life. And life is full of moments that demand clarity. Moments when you have to choose, react or respond, run or stay, fight or let go. And the only way to choose well is to have practiced stillness, so that when the moment comes, you are not making the decision from panic. You are making it from center. Think about a recent moment when you reacted instead of responded. Not to judge yourself, just to notice. What would have been different if you had paused for one breath first? That pause is Fudoshin, and it is available to you right now. One breath, then the next step. That is all. The poets who walked this path left us something beautiful. Chapter 19, Haiku and Momentary Awareness. A haiku is 17 syllables, 3 lines, 5, 7, 5. No rhyme, no metaphor, just a moment captured. And in that moment, the entire world appears. A frog jumps into a pond. Splash. Snow on a pine branch. Silence. Autumn wind. The leaves scatter. That is all, and that is everything. Because haiku is not trying to explain life, it is trying to notice life. One moment, one image, one breath, and the reader feels the moment without needing more. This is the opposite of how most of us live. We rush past moments. We are already thinking about the next thing. We see the sunset, and instead of seeing it, we photograph it. We have the conversation, and instead of being there, we are planning what to say next. Haiku says, stop, look, this, now, not forever, just for 17 syllables, just long enough to notice that this moment is singular and will never come again. There is a haiku by Basho, the greatest haiku poet. An old pond. A frog jumps in. The sound of water. That is all. No moral, no lesson, no deeper meaning. Just this happened, and I noticed. And yet people have been reading that haiku for 300 years, because it teaches something you cannot teach directly. It teaches presence, the ability to hear the splash, to let the splash be enough, not to turn it into a symbol, not to make it mean something, just to let it be what it is, a sound, a moment, a life. You have had moments like this, moments when you were completely here, not thinking, just present, and afterward you realized that was peace. Not because the moment was perfect, because you were in it. Haiku is the practice of collecting those moments, not to hold them forever, to honor them, to say, this happened, and it mattered, even if only for 17 syllables. Let the next breath come slower. Basho is about to walk into the room. Chapter 20, Basho's Poetic Consciousness. Matsuo Basho was born in 1644. He started as a samurai's son. He became a wandering poet, and he spent the last years of his life walking, not to get somewhere, to be somewhere. He walked through mountains, along rivers, through small villages where no one knew his name, and he wrote short poems, tiny observations, a cicada's cry, a traveler's straw hat, the moon over a ruined castle, and those poems changed Japanese literature forever. Because Basho was not trying to be clever, he was trying to be awake. He wrote, "Do not seek to follow in the footsteps of the wise, seek what they sought," meaning, do not copy the poem, copy the attention. Basho's poems are not about nature. They are about noticing nature. And in that noticing, you notice yourself. One of his most famous haiku, The Old Pond. A frog jumps in, plop, Scholars have written thousands of pages analyzing that poem, but Basho would probably laugh. There is nothing to analyze. There is only, did you hear the plop? Did you feel the stillness before it, the ripples after? If you did, the poem worked. If you did not, no amount of analysis will help. Basho also wrote about loneliness, not the desperate kind, the quiet kind, the loneliness of being the only one awake at 3 a.m., the loneliness of watching the moon alone. And he did not call it sad, he called it pure, because in that loneliness there is no performance, no one to impress, no one to explain yourself to, just you and the moon and the night. And that, Basho said, is where poetry comes from, not from trying, from being. You do not need to write haiku, but you can practice what Basho practiced, noticing one small thing fully, the way the light falls on the wall, the sound of rain on the window, the feeling of your own breath, not to make it into something, just to let it be. That is Basho's gift, the permission to stop striving and start noticing. And with that, we arrive at one of the subtlest ideas in Japanese thought. Chapter 21, The Art of Ma. We have mentioned Ma before, but now we can go deeper. Ma is the pause, the gap, the space between. In music, it is the rest between notes. In conversation, it is the silence between words. In a room, it is the emptiness between objects. And in life, it is the moment between doing. Western culture fears the gap. It feels like wasted time. Japanese culture trusts the gap. It is where meaning settles. Think about music. The notes are important, but the silence between the notes is what gives the music shape. Without the pause, it is just noise. The same is true for your life. If there is no pause between tasks, there is no time to digest what you just did. If there is no silence between conversations, there is no time to feel what was said. And if there is no space between thoughts, there is no room for clarity. Ma is the practice of not filling every gap, of letting the pause be. In a Japanese garden, Ma is the open gravel, the empty corner, the place where nothing grows. And that emptiness is not absence, it is presence. It is the space where your mind can rest, where you can stop trying and just be. One Zen teacher said, "The teaching is in the pause, not in the words, in the silence after the words, because the silence is where you realize you already knew. You have experienced this. The moment after someone stops talking and the truth of what they said finally lands. The pause after the question when the answer rises without effort. The stillness after the storm when you realize you survived. That is ma. And it is the most important part, not the doing. The space between the doing, not the thinking. The space between the thoughts. Feel the pause between your breaths. That is ma. And it is always there. You just have to stop filling it. The next chapter asks, what happens when you stop trying to make things happen? Chapter 22, Surrender and Non-Striving. In Japanese philosophy, there is a concept that runs through everything, letting things be. Not giving up, letting be. The Taoists call it Wu Wei, effortless action. The Zen masters call it Shikantaza, just sitting. The idea is the same. Stop forcing. You cannot force a flower to bloom. You can water it. You can give it light. But the blooming happens on its own. You cannot force peace. You can create conditions for peace. But the peace itself arrives when you stop chasing it. This is hard to hear in a culture that says, work harder, push through, make it happen. But Japanese philosophy says, sometimes the wisest thing is to stop, to sit, to wait, to let the process unfold. Not because you are lazy, because you trust that some things cannot be rushed. Grief cannot be rushed. Healing cannot be rushed. Understanding cannot be rushed. You can force yourself to keep moving, but you cannot force yourself to arrive. Think about a time when you tried to solve a problem by thinking harder, and the solution did not come until you stopped thinking, until you took a walk, took a shower, fell asleep, and then the answer just appeared. That is non-striving. The answer was always there, but your effort was blocking it. And when you stopped trying, the space opened, and the answer walked in. This does not mean do nothing. It means do less. It means trust that some things solve themselves, that some knots untie when you stop pulling, that some wounds heal when you stop picking at them. You have been trying very hard for a very long time, and maybe tonight, just for a moment, you can stop. Not because you have given up, because you have given in to the fact that you are human and humans need rest, to the fact that you have done enough today and tomorrow can wait, to the fact that peace is not earned, it is allowed. Let your shoulders drop. We are going deeper. Chapter 23, Nature as Teacher. In Japan, nature is not something to conquer. It is something to learn from. The mountain does not hurry. The river does not force its path. The tree bends in the wind and does not break. And each of these teaches something. Patience, flexibility, acceptance. Japanese philosophy does not separate human life from natural life. You are not above nature. You are part of it. And what is true for the river is true for you. The river does not fight the rocks. It moves around them. Over centuries, the water wears the rock smooth, but it does not fight. You do not have to fight every obstacle in your path. Sometimes you move around it, sometimes you wait for it to shift, and sometimes you let time do what force cannot. The cherry blossom teaches impermanence. It blooms for 2 weeks, then it falls, and no one says the blossom failed because it did not last. It did what it was supposed to do. It bloomed, and then it let go. You do not have to last forever. You just have to bloom when it is your time. The bamboo teaches resilience. It bends in the typhoon. The oak stands rigid and snaps. The bamboo survives because it knows how to yield. And yielding is not weakness, it is intelligence. You do not have to stand rigid against everything that pushes you. You can bend. And when the wind stops, you can straighten again. The stone in the garden teaches stillness. It has been sitting in the same place for centuries. Rain falls on it, snow covers it, moss grows on it, and it remains. Not because it is fighting, because it is simply being what it is. You do not have to become something else to be valuable. You can be still, be yourself, be here, and that is enough. Notice the air moving in and out. The next chapter is about what nature teaches when things hurt. Chapter 24, Suffering and Acceptance. Buddhism, which shaped much of Japanese thought, begins with one truth. Life involves suffering. Not life is suffering. Life involves it. Pain is inevitable. Loss is inevitable. Aging is inevitable. And the question is not how to avoid it. The question is how to meet it. Japanese philosophy meets suffering with acceptance. Not resignation, acceptance. There is a difference. Resignation says, nothing matters, so why try? Acceptance says, this is happening, and I can be present for it. You cannot control the fact that someone you love will die someday. You cannot control the fact that your body will age. You cannot control the fact that some things you want will not happen. But you can control how you hold those truths. You can brace against them, tighten, fight, or you can open your hand, let them be what they are. One Zen teacher was asked, "What do you do when someone you love dies?" He said, "I cry. That is all. No philosophy, no technique, just I cry." Because acceptance does not mean you do not feel. It means you let yourself feel fully, without trying to fix it. Pain is not a problem to solve. It is a signal that something mattered, and if something mattered, it is worth the pain. You have probably spent a lot of energy trying to avoid pain, planning, controlling, anticipating. And some of that is useful, but some of it is exhausting, because no matter how much you plan, pain still finds you. And when it does, the only question is, can you breathe through it? Can you let it be what it is? Not forever, just for this breath. And then the next. Suffering is not optional, but resistance is. And when you stop resisting, suffering does not disappear, but it changes shape. It becomes something you can carry. Instead of something that crushes you, let the weight of your body settle. The next idea will feel lighter. Chapter 25. Everyday ritual as meditation. In Japan, ordinary tasks are treated as sacred, not because they are religious, because they are real. Sweeping the floor is not just cleaning, it is meditation. Making tea is not just preparation, it is ceremony. Walking to the market is not just transportation, it is pilgrimage. And this transforms the day, because if every task is an opportunity for presence, then nothing is wasted. You do not have to escape your life to find peace. You find peace in the way you do your life. There is a story about a monk who was asked what enlightenment was. He said, "Chop wood, carry water. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The tasks do not change. The quality of attention changes." You can wash dishes as a chore, rushing, thinking about what is next. Or you can wash dishes as a practice. Feel the warm water, notice the soap, hear the clink of ceramic on ceramic. Not because it is special, because you are here. And when you are here, everything becomes a little more vivid. The Japanese tea ceremony is the ultimate example of this. It takes an hour to prepare and drink one bowl of tea. An hour for tea, and the entire hour is intentional, present, sacred. Not because tea is magic, because attention is. You do not need to practice tea ceremony, but you can practice presence. The next time you make coffee, do not scroll while you wait. Just make the coffee. Feel the warmth of the cup, smell the steam, taste the first sip. That is ritual. And it costs nothing. It just requires you to slow down enough to notice that you are alive. And this moment is here. Let your jaw soften. The modern world has something to say about this. Chapter 26. Simplicity in modern Japan. Japan today is a paradox. It is one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world. Bullet trains, robotics, screens everywhere. And yet, walk into a traditional home and you will find almost nothing. A low table, a tatami mat, a scroll on the wall. The old ways have not disappeared. They have adapted, and the principle remains the same. Only keep what serves. In Tokyo, people live in small apartments. There is no room for clutter, so they practice extreme minimalism. not out of philosophy, out of necessity. And what they find is that less space does not mean less life. It means more clarity. When you only have room for 10 books, you choose those 10 carefully. When you only have one plate, you wash it after every meal. And the result is not deprivation, it is attention. You notice what you have. You care for it. You use it. Modern Japanese design carries this forward. Clean lines, neutral colors, nothing extra. Not because it is trendy, because it reflects a centuries-old truth. Simplicity is not about having less, it is about needing less. And when you need less, you are free from maintenance, free from storage, free from the weight of unused things. You do not have to live in a tiny apartment to practice this. You can practice it right now. Look around. What in this room do you actually use? What is just there because it has always been there? What would change if you let one thing go? Not to be perfect, to be lighter. Simplicity is not a destination, it is a direction. And every time you choose less, you gain a little more room to breathe. The next chapter asks, what gives life meaning? Chapter 27, Ikigai and Purpose. Ikigai is a Japanese concept that means reason for being, not a grand mission, not a life calling, just the thing that makes you want to get out of bed. For some people, it is their garden. For others, it is morning coffee with a loved one. For others, it is a craft, a project, a quiet routine. Ikigai is not about achievement. It is about aliveness. The question is not, what will you accomplish? The question is, what makes you feel present? And the answer does not have to be impressive. It can be small, daily, ordinary. And the Japanese village of Okinawa has one of the highest concentrations of centenarians in the world. People who live past 100, researchers studied them, looking for the secret. And they found one common thread. Everyone had an ikigai, a reason to wake up, a reason to keep going. Not because they were chasing success, because they had something they cared about. One woman tended her garden every morning. That was her ikigai. One man played with his great-grandchildren. That was his. Another woman cooked for her neighbors. That was hers. None of them were extraordinary. All of them were alive. And that is the lesson. You do not need a grand purpose to have a meaningful life. You need something that makes today worth living. Something small. Something real. What is your ikigai? Not what should it be. What is it? Maybe it is your morning walk. Maybe it is making dinner. Maybe it is reading before bed. Maybe it is this moment. Listening, breathing, letting the day settle. That is enough. Purpose does not have to be loud. It can be quiet. It can be the thing you do when no one is watching. the thing that does not need to impress anyone, because it is yours. Let your hands rest and notice you are here. That is the ikigai of this moment. The modern world has one more thing to teach us. Chapter 28, Technology and Tradition. Japan is famous for holding two things at once: ancient temples next to neon skyscrapers, monks in robes texting on smartphones, tradition and innovation, side by side. And the lesson is this: you do not have to choose. You can honor the old while embracing the new. You can meditate in the morning and check your email in the afternoon. You can practice tea ceremony and use modern medicine. The two are not enemies. They are partners. Technology is not the problem. Thoughtless technology is. A phone is a tool. It can connect you or distract you. The internet is a tool. It can teach you or numb you. The question is not, should you use it? The question is, are you using it, or is it using you? Japanese culture asks this all the time. Every innovation is filtered through tradition. Does this serve? Does this simplify? Does this add quality to life? If yes, adopt it. If no, leave it. You can do the same. Your phone does not have to disappear, but maybe it does not need to be in your hand right now. Your email does not have to be deleted, but maybe it does not need to be checked at midnight. The tools are neutral. Your relationship to them is what matters. And when you bring intention to that relationship, everything changes. Technology becomes a servant, not a master, and you get your attention back. The same attention that monks in the 15th century practiced, just in a different room with different tools. But the practice is the same. Notice, choose, let go, feel your breath move. The final ideas are gathering now. Chapter 29, Living with Graceful Decay. There is a temple in Kyoto that has stood for over 1,000 years. The wood is dark. The roof sags slightly. The walls are weathered. And it is one of the most beautiful buildings in Japan, not in spite of its age, because of it. Every crack tells a story. Every stain is a century. Every worn step is a pilgrim. The temple is not maintained to look new. It is maintained to age well. And there is a lesson in that. You are not supposed to look new forever. You are supposed to age well. And aging well does not mean fighting every wrinkle, every gray hair, every sign of time. It means letting time leave its mark and honoring the mark, because the mark is proof. Proof that you lived, that you laughed, that you worried, that you survived. Your face is not supposed to be smooth at 60. It is supposed to be lived in. Your hands are not supposed to be soft. They are supposed to be capable. Your voice is not supposed to be unchanged. It is supposed to carry weight. And all of this is beautiful. Not magazine beautiful. Real beautiful. The kind of beauty that can only come from time. Japan understands this. They do not throw away old things. They care for them, display them. A tea bowl used for 400 years is more valuable than a new one. Not because it is rare, because it has been loved. And you are the same. You are more valuable now than you were at 20. Not because you are perfect, because you are deep. You have accumulated years, experiences, scars, wisdom, and that accumulation is not loss, it is gain. So let yourself age gracefully, honestly. Let the grey show, let the lines deepen, let the voice soften, because you are not a new bowl on a shelf. You are a Kintsugi bowl, still in use, still beautiful, and the gold is showing. Let the stillness hold you. We are almost at the end. Chapter 30, Integration, the way of imperfection. And so we arrive where we started, with a cracked bowl and the question of whether to hide it or honor it. And now you know the answer. You honor it, not because the crack is good, because the crack is real, and real is all we have. Japanese philosophy, across all its forms, teaches one thing: stop fighting what is. The cherry blossoms will fall. Let them. The tea will get cold. Let it. Your body will age. Let it. The moment will end. Let it. Because fighting impermanence is exhausting, and it never works. The only thing that works is this: presence, being here, fully, even when here is imperfect. Especially when here is imperfect, because imperfection is not the interruption of life. It is life. Life is the crack, the wrinkle, the mistake, the loss, and also the repair, the laugh line, the lesson, the memory. All of it together. Wabi-Sabi does not say ignore the flaw. It says see the flaw and see the beauty anyway. Zen does not say stop thinking. It says notice the thinking and return to the breath. The tea ceremony does not say make everything perfect. It says make everything intentional, and intention is all you need. You do not need to fix yourself tonight. You do not need to become someone else. You just need to notice you are here, breathing, alive. And that is the ikigai of this moment. Let your body be heavy, let your breath slow, and let tonight be enough, because it is. The Japanese have spent centuries perfecting the art of imperfection. And the final lesson is this: you were never supposed to be perfect. You were always supposed to be you. Cracked, mended, still holding tea, and beautiful because of it, not in spite of it. because of it, rest now. The bowl is still whole. Guided practice section. Let us pause here. Not to fix anything, just to notice. Right now, your body is holding you. You do not have to do anything for that to be true. Let your attention move to wherever your body feels heaviest. Maybe your legs, maybe your shoulders, maybe the back of your head. There is nothing to change. Just notice. Now, let your breath find its own rhythm. You do not need to make it deeper or slower. Just let it move the way it wants to move. If your mind is busy, that is fine. You do not need to quiet it. Just let it be busy in the background, like a distant conversation you are not part of. For these next few moments, imagine you are a Kintsugi bowl, cracked, repaired, still in use. The cracks are not flaws. They are gold veins running through you, proof that you broke and mended and kept going. You do not need to hide them. They are the most honest part of you. Let one hand rest on your chest. Feel the rise and fall. That is life, moving through you without effort. Now think of one thing you have been trying to fix about yourself. Not to solve it, just to see it. And instead of calling it a flaw, call it a mark, a gold vein, proof that you lived. You do not need to make it go away. You just need to stop fighting it. Take one slow breath and let that mark be. Let it belong to you. You are not broken. You are Kintsugi. And the gold is showing. When you are ready, we will continue. 7-day path. Day 1. Notice one imperfection. Today, notice one thing about yourself or your life that you usually try to hide or fix. A scar, a habit, a rough edge. Do not judge it. Do not fix it. Just notice it and silently say, "This is part of me." That is enough for today. Day 2. Let something age. Choose one object you own, a piece of furniture, a book, a jacket, and let it show its age. Do not polish it, do not repair it, just let it be worn. Notice how the wear feels like memory, not damage. Day 3, one moment of Ma. At some point today, pause. For 10 seconds, do nothing. No phone, no task, just pause. Feel the space between actions. That is Ma, and it is the most important part of the day. Day 4, practice Wabi. Do one task today with your full attention. Washing dishes, making coffee, walking. Not to do it perfectly, to do it intentionally. Notice the difference between rushing through and being present for. Day 5, sit with impermanence. Today, notice something that is ending. A season, a routine, a relationship. And instead of trying to hold on, let yourself feel the ache of it. That ache is no aware. And it means you loved something. Day 6, release what does not serve. Choose one thing today that you have been carrying that you do not need. A grudge, a plan you will never start, an object you do not use, and let it go. Not with force, with gratitude. It served you once. It is done now. Day 7. Honor your Kintsugi. Tonight, before sleep, think of one way you have been broken and repaired. A loss you survived. A mistake you learned from. A wound that healed. And instead of calling it a scar, call it gold. Because that is what it is. Proof that you are still here. And that is beautiful. Final reflection. And so we close where we began, with the image of a bowl, cracked, filled with gold, still holding tea. That bowl is you. The cracks are not the problem. They are the story. And the story is this: you have lived, you have broken, you have mended, and you are still here, still holding, still serving, still beautiful. Not because you are perfect, because you are real. And real is all that Japanese philosophy has ever asked for. Wabi-Sabi, Zen, the tea ceremony, the haiku, the garden. All of it points to the same truth. Life is impermanent, imperfect, incomplete, and that is not the tragedy. That is the beauty. So let the cherry blossoms fall, let the tea cool, let the years show, and trust that every crack in you is a place where light can enter. Every flaw is a story. Every scar is proof. And the gold running through you, the wisdom, the compassion, the quiet strength you have earned, that gold is what makes you singular. You do not need to be anything other than what you are. Broken, mended, still here, and beautiful because of it. Rest now. The bowl is whole,